Welcome to the hip-hop talk show, Temple Tactics. I invite you to travel with me to hip-hop culture. Together, we will journey into local hip-hop communities, we'll examine hip-hop's elements, speak with artists and scholars, and also explore hip-hop's history. So kick back and let's enter the temple. Here we have, man, to me, a legend. I'm from Gardena, he's from Gardena. He has his hands everywhere. Graphic arts, podcast, weekly radio show. I don't want to tell everything, put everything on the table. I leave that up to you. I'll leave that up to you. No.
Other people say it.
Yeah, right. But I'll leave that up to you. Kahlee, welcome, man. Thank you for Temple Tactics, the inaugural show, man.
Appreciate you having me, man. It's dope to be here.
Oh, thank you. So let's just get right into it.
By all means.
This might be sort of cliche, but who or what got you into hip hop?
I mean, so many things. Crazy. My boy Jamal in the house. Shout out my man Jamal. His brother was instrumental to that, or him. You know, his brother used to rap. Shout out Shahid Allah, Project Blodian. My brother and my sisters were like 8, 9, 10 years older than me. They always listened to hip hop. I'm from Gardena, you know what I mean? The Rhodium. Like, it's the West Coast Mecca of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can you not? The time that I grew up in, you know. But getting into rapping, just over time, man, going to parties and fools freestyling and my homies freestyling. And I had a couple homies that were dope, and then a lot of them were not. And it's always better to tell somebody that, you know, in their own language. And so I learned to MC, and it was just fun and whatever. And over time, became a bigger part of my life and different aspects of hip hop, you know, as well. And it's just one of my cultures that I live, you know.
Yeah. You know, growing up as an MC, or just growing up doing the elements of hip hop in the South Bay, you're familiar. You just mentioned Project Blow, the Good Life Cafe.
Never been to the Good Life, but I've been to the Blowed a few times, yeah.
And that was my next question. Where did you hone your rap skills?
I can't say that I honed it at the Blowed, though I had the pleasure of being served there a few times.
Right?
You know, it was dope to be there and stuff like that. But man, just over time, man. You know, I've done a lot of stuff. I taught myself how to ride a bike, how to tie my shoes, how to swim. Not like I'm an amazing swimmer, you know what I mean? And sometimes I accidentally tie my shoes together, but I taught myself these things, you know what I'm saying? And it doesn't mean I didn't have help, you know, but I've realized over the years, now that I'm older, like, I didn't have mentors the way people have mentors. I have mentors. My friends are my mentors. My peers are my mentors, and vice versa. And, you know, so it's hard to put my finger on it. But till this day, I continue to hone my craft, you know, whatever it is, not just music or hip hop, but you're just trying to get better, trying to stay on top of it. And, you know, that's it. There's no one place, though. But I do remember '05 at the Knitting Factory. Ooh. Shout out Chinky Eyed and just everybody doing their thing at that time. You know what I mean? Cuatro, the crooks, customer service, the literates. Like, that time is the time when I became like a professional MC and in this game and started doing their thing, you know, my thing and stuff, yeah.
I hear that. In hip hop culture, we have two names. We have our government name, and then we have our hip hop name, right?
Sure.
You're Kahlee.
Some people was both the same.
True.
My grandma used to call me Kahlee. Kahlee is short for Kahlee Keeney. Like, my middle name is Tommy, which is the name that I go by. Don't worry about my first name. I've always went by Tommy, and my grandmother and my godmother and one of my other aunts called me Kahlee. So when I started writing as a younger, you know what I mean? Little youngster, I was writing Kahlee. When people started calling me Kahlee, and I'm like, why are you calling me by my name? I just wrote on the, you know, I changed that. Don't worry about what I changed that to. And I changed the spelling of Kahlee because people call me Cali all the time. Does Kahlee sound like Cali?
No,
sound
not
different
at all.
enough,
To me,
right?
no.
They say Cali like Cali,
but I could
like California.
Yeah.
You know, I think you're a little more optimistic about it. You got a name that people don't mess up. Nobody's calling you like Michael or it's clearly Michael. You know what I'm saying? Sir. Like, maybe they'll call you Mike, but that's kind of different.
Well, my hip hop name is Concrete.
Yeah, okay.
So that's easy, right?
You're not gonna say it wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my point.
Yeah.
They want to call me Cali. I'm like, so I changed the spelling because it used to be K-A-L-I, changed it to K-A-H-L-E-E.
And now it's about pronunciation.
I'm sure it improved somewhat. But let's just say fools still call me Cali.
Right. I hear that.
Hey, what's your name? Kahlee. Oh, Cali? I'm like, more like how I said it. You know what I mean? Kahlee. You can say Muhammad Ali, but you can't say, you know what I mean? Anyway. focus. I care about my name. That's all. Don't worry about that.
I like that.
It's
I like
important.
That. Right, it is. It is. It's your moniker, man. It's your moniker.
But it's even more important. Like all jokes aside, I mean, it's whatever. I mean, if you're hosting and you're announcing me to you, I don't care. You should have enough pride in what you're doing that you say it right, no matter who it is that you're announcing. Ooh, yeah. It's not like you can look, man. If am I asking you to curl R's? You know what I mean? It's not a hard word to say.
Right.
So I expect you to say it properly, or else you're basically inadvertently or purposely disrespecting not just me, anybody. Yeah. My wife, her name is Delia. Shout out my wife. I hate when fools call her Delia. What the hell is wrong with you? How hard is it to say it? You know what I mean? Maybe you say it wrong the first time.
Right.
You get one time, dude. It's not again. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's all good. Spoken like a true MC, bro.
Before the show, when I said, can we talk about my name for 45 minutes, you said no, and here I am. You know what I mean?
I didn't say
my bad.
Yo, it's a good one. I like this interview. Yo, in your lyrics, you mentioned Hawaii. In fact, I've even I've heard you say some Hawaiian words, pakalolo. right.
I probably said that once or twice. Yeah. My dad's Hawaiian. He's from Hawaii. My mom is Mexican from Laredo. I did Ancestry.com, realized I'm a lot of stuff. But, I came up Mexican and Hawaiian upbringing, more Hawaiian though. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm from Gardena. That's similar to Hawaii in a way.
Yeah, yes. It's
lots of polys out there.
Exactly. Yeah. King's Hawaii. King's Hawaiian. I heard you shout them out lyrically too.
Maybe I'll kick that later.
Come on. Stay tuned, people. So let's go back a little bit. You're part of a duo. If it's a duo, The Seed. Am I mistaken? Duo?
Sure.
Okay. Duo.
Just not very active currently, but that's me, Uptown Suite. Shout out Uptown Suite.
But yes. Also, at that time that you were with The Seed, you did a soundtrack song.
Yeah, we've done some stuff. Challenger.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm
Soul
speaking
Plus
about.
Mine. Shout out my brother.
So tell us about The Seed. Where does it sit on your personal musical timeline?
Oh man. I started off with this group called The Literates. We dropped a record in 2005. We had a song called Graph Life. We have a few songs that did well. Graph Life is one that a lot of heads know, especially like the graph heads. And then I put out a solo record, and as I kind of transitioned in life, but especially musically and like my style, like coming into like kind of the style where I'm at now, I guess you could say, there was this thing called Your Sessions. You remember Your Sessions?
I've heard of them.
Sway and Tech and like maybe the RZA and like another dude from the rock world that created this like music focused social media thing. And they had a contest, bunch of producers, like big name producers, contributed some beats, and then like they had MCs rock over them. And I'm just doing work. I'm not working at the time. I'm just doing music stuff, and I'm editing videos I'm just working on my own stuff. And I'm listening to Foo's Freestyle that were on that contest, and I hear this dope MC, and I kind of glance to the side because I'm working on this screen and he's on this screen, and it's a dude, a Samoan dude, with a blue LA Dodgers hat and a Psycho Realm shirt. And I'm like, oh, this is like a dream come true right now, bro. So I hit this fool up, and I wanted to do this thing where it's all Polynesian MCs, you know? And I hit him up, I shot him some beats, like 3 or 4 beats. And at this time, I couldn't get my crew at the time to make a song in like months, you know? And this fool sent me back 3 songs in like a few days and didn't even have his own studio. Ooh. So I'm like, okay, this is a song. And he was with it, and he was feeling me, I was feeling him. So we ended up doing this whole record out of it, man. And like that record, it's only the one, and we've done stuff since, but that record kind of put me in a different state of mind and creating music differently and being more diverse and, you know, gaining stuff from him as well. And just the more people you work with, man, it's up to you to use it, but it's an opportunity to use that energy and put it in a different way, you know, and that's something that it did. So, yeah.
For sure.
Check that one out.
Speaking of videos and making music, let's go to one of your videos, Devil is a Lie. Banger.
Shout out my man Chrome on the beat, David Ira on the video. Devil's a Lie. Yeah. Yo, cool out for a sec. Chill. What's that? You hear me? Listen close, you can hear it. The city, it's alive.
The city wheezing in the smog, funny reason got us chasing our tails like little dogs. It's divide and conquer, shooting up the swamps like a game of Contra. Everybody think they King Frank Sinatra. I was a kid who used to want to be a doctor, ball player or the pilot of a helicopter. I used to watch the block move, how the people move with it. Realize I'm less a soldier and I'm more of a critic. Crunching data like an analyst, pocket full of amethysts. A Shakespearean spoof, the Montagues and calculus. The trick is who they think the love story's antagonist. I bet they both poke holes in sheets in their cabinets. The educated got a leg up like a dog pissing. I'm fascinated with the non-fiction. I know Wayne say he a Martian, but it sound like brainwashing or his ethics backseat to his ambitions. They got us blind to the facts, pointing fingers at the sheet, the pot calling kettle black, pulled the wool over our eyes, but did it for the last time. I know the devil is a lie. They got us blind to the facts, pointing fingers at the sheet, the pot calling kettle black, pulled the wool over our eyes, but did it for the last time. I know the devil is a lie. Cash rules and propaganda is psychological warfare. The money trickle from the top. Mass tools, how they commanded, methodical with the Lord's bread. Infecting all the have-nots, trying to keep you compliant, relying on their crop. How we survive when they stop. I ain't living, anticipating other shoes to drop. Watching them plot, hands rubbing like a fly in a pile. A Duke holding my hands high, they liable to shoot. My lack of melanin got me ranked in the middle. Rolling with my black homies, cops treated me civil. When I was with my white friends, I'm out of eye with a pistol. Hard to have a conversation with the ignorant bliss. The chessboard full of pawns, probably a couple others. While they hand moving the piece and blindfolding us, our eyes covered. I play the game like Daredevil to the perfect opportunity to flip the Frank Castle stage of music. They got us blind to the facts, pointing fingers at the sheet, the pot calling kettle black, pulled the wool over our eyes, but did it for the last time. I know the devil is a lie. They got us blind to the facts, pointing fingers at the sheet, the pot calling kettle black, pulled the wool over our eyes, but did it for the last time. I know the devil is a lie.
Yo, that video right there, the devil is a lie. Come on, man, that's a banger.
Thank you, man.
Yeah,
It's a fun video too.
oh yeah. How many days did it take to shoot? One day shoot?
I don't do multi-day shoots.
No, you did one day person. You busy?
You know, we do as much as we can, dog.
I hear you.
know.
You told me today. I got me
man.
out by 2.
I got a family, dog.
I hear
I got
you.
a job.
I hear
know
you.
what I mean?
I hear you.
Just trying to produce some dope material, you know, but I ain't spending days on it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, only so many hours in a day.
Right. Yes, sir. So, speaking of songs and lyrics, you know, your lyrics are pretty personal, man. Alcoholism, fatherhood, politics. Why is it important for you to say something that has some substance in your rhymes?
You know, I'm not gonna say that it's not important, but I'm just kicking what I'm into at that moment. You know what I'm saying? Like and maybe it's podcasting because I'm big on podcasts, but I became this dude who's just like interested in talking about certain things, and I've realized over these last few months that and then I became more intentional about it. Like, I don't got a lot of people to talk about some of these things. Some of my homeboys be tapping out real quick. They ain't trying to talk about it or like to dive into these layers, peeling these layers back and getting. So, you know, the psychology behind the things that everybody talks about, because a lot of times people want to scream about politics in general, but if you can't get past that surface, you ain't, you know, so I talk about that more than just the obvious, you know, everybody sucks, every president sucks, or every this or that, you know what I mean? How about like, why are we having a problem discussing it? And we arguing, but we literally not even talking about the same thing. So I start like making music about it or making content about it because I ain't got nobody to talk to about it really. You know what I mean? It's like I'm talking to the listener, you know what I mean, with the raps, and that's what it is. And then also, as of late, like I just released a single called Intentions. And I kind of like, in that, amongst other things, I'm like, man, I'm talking to my kids. My kid is 10, my son is 10, my daughter is 5. And like, hopefully they have kids and there's like a lineage. And hopefully they get to listen to some of my stuff and they're not just like, you know, it's substance. They can learn stuff. They going through something in life. They could literally possibly turn on one of my tracks and like get something from it, like they had a conversation with me. That would be dope. And so I become more intentional about that. That ain't everything I'm doing, but right now that's what I'm doing. You know?
That's what drew me to you, man. I'm a father as well, 2 kids, man. And when I heard you lyrically spitting about fatherhood and have alcoholics in my family as well, I was like, yo, total relation there. You know what I'm saying? And that's what drove me to it. You know. So let's talk about your Bars Weekly. When you spit your freestyle rap series, you did one in 2017. Yeah, popped all over the city with the background, right? Mighty Muds. Shout out Mighty Muds. Awesome director. Yeah. And then you have your current one, your 2022. Looks more personal, more inviting. Where did that originate from? The idea to do these Bars Weekly?
I think it was me and my homie Eyeball. There might have been another person, but I think it was my cousin too. My Cuddy Kamaka, but we did a show. Yeah, we did like the Phoenix Hip Hop Festival back in I guess 2016 maybe. And on our way back, we stopped at this. We're just driving on the 8, and we stop at this like water tower that I see all the time. I'm like, let me just kick a acapella at this water. There it is, you know. Pull over, did a acapella, and it got like a lot of attention, especially compared to what I was getting at that time on Instagram. So I was just like, whatever. Maybe that was November. I'm like, you know, next year let me try to do an acapella video every week and try to create these videos that aren't like the most produced videos, but at the same time, it's not just the camera phone video, you know. And that was cool. And then over time, I started throwing shows, and I was more focused on other things. My radio show, Bars Weekly every week, and I just started making music again because when the pandemic came, I had to stop throwing shows, and I wanted to bring back Bars Weekly because I had so much music. I'm like, let me start putting out content. A lot of times people, they don't hear the songs, you know what I mean? But I have so much music, I got to start putting it out, you know what I mean? So amongst others, sometimes it's an unreleased verse, sometimes it's something to be like, what is that? Oh, you scroll down a little bit, there's the lyrics, you can see, oh, it's on this album, Soapbox Chronicles. Go back, check that album. It's like, it hits a lot, it checks a lot of boxes, you know what I mean? But ultimately, I'm just trying to kick some verses, trying to keep it diverse. One day I'm like, I'm the illest rapper ever. Here's why. You know what I mean? Right, and the next day I'm like, I'm sad and emo. You know what I mean? Next day I'm like, the government sucks. It's just like trying to, you know, I got a lot of stuff, man. So I just keep it diverse. You know
hey, well, that keeps the books full, right?
Yeah.
Hitting the pen to the pad.
Yo, man, cats don't want diversity, though, man. Let's just keep it real.
Oh, yeah, you are.
The diversity is hard. Maybe if I was already big, if I was already known and popular, then they'd be like, you know, oh, I like this. When he does this, I don't really care for it, but I like this. Or maybe they like all of it. But, man, it's hard to really get... the one time you might listen to my stuff might be the one time I kick something that you're not interested in. It's going to take people more than once to hear you sometimes anyway. So it's taking a chance if you look at it like that. But nowadays, I'm not really thinking about that, man. I'm just making music and trying to connect with cats. Like, if you really feel it and it's something that's speaking to you, that's what I care about. You know what I mean? These days, I'm not going to throw your money back at you. But, you know, by all means. But quality over quantity for sure, man.
Yes,
so
sir.
That's what I've been focused on.
Well said, well said.
Thanks.
Let's stick to your Bars Weekly. Going back to a 2017 one, I think it was episode 12. And then you also talked about this. You talked about the graph life.
When I said, you sound like my homeboy, issue 37 of, you know,
hey,
Marvel's Wolverine.
I got to know my peoples, man. You know what I'm saying?
Great, I wish I could.
Yo, you talked about, it was titled Graph Life, that one.
Yeah.
And you started spitting about being a graffiti artist. So the question here is, growing up, you know, do you see a difference in graffiti back then as opposed now?
I mean, you know, I can't say. You know what a difference is everybody's quick to tell everybody on whatever public forum that this is my name and this is what I've done. Look at the video of my illegal activity. What the heck is wrong with you? But, you know, whatever. One time I had to check, like, my niece or cousin, whatever. I don't know. I'm Hawaiian. I call cousins, nieces, cousins. But anyways, she took a picture of her, like, doing a little throw-up, and I had to text her. I was like, hey, what the hell are you doing? You stupid? It was on MySpace. A long time ago.
Right.
But I'm like, man, don't do that. Like, you putting your information out there, they can easily. But, you know, I don't know that the cops care these days.
You still practice graffiti?
I don't know what you're talking about now. I'm old, bro.
I like that.
So there may be an occasion where I'll indulge.
I hear you.
But am I active? I don't know that I was ever really active. You know what I mean? It's something I like. I know one thing. I never rode with a crew, and the people that I rock with, shout out my man Brew in particular, I just kind of did it different, you know? I think it's cool when you roll up to a rest stop, let's say, you look at the tore up bathroom that you wish you didn't have to use, but your stomach hurts.
Right.
So as you're using the bathroom, you're looking around and you see a tag from somebody, you're like, I'm like hundreds of miles away, and this is somebody that I might even personally know or not, you know. You see the Taser, R.I.P. Taser, you see Taser everywhere, all over the damn country. Or like Brock 77, like when I was in high school and stuff, those were the scribe spots I would see in a phone booth in another state. You know what I mean? So it's like that's kind of cool to me, and so I, you know, if I allegedly partook, it would be on some Kilroy stuff, like Kilroy was here, you know what I mean?
Ooh, taking it back to World War II or one?
One of the wars back
one of the
in
wars,
the day.
yeah.
But it's just like, it's a ring in a tree, bro, to see something that happened at one point in life. And I just think it's kind of cool sometimes. And if you know, my personal opinion, not to say I've never done anything stupid, you know, when it comes to the graph, but I try not to divergenize mirrors and glass. I try to, like, is it already done? Okay, well, you know, I'm not really adding anything crazy to what's not already there. You know, I kind of look at it like that. Respect people's property and don't be on some F the government stuff. If you writing on people's houses and walls, it's about the government and it's about public money that you probably ain't paying taxes, by the way.
I like that.
I'm Gemini, bro, so I have a problem with everything I don't have a problem with.
I do, but I like the way you ration things out, though. You know what I'm saying?
It makes hard to make decisions sometimes. right. Yeah, but you know, but maybe well, maybe not.
Right. So not only you're a graffiti artist, man. Again, you're an MC.
I don't use that term.
You don't use that term.
I'm a writer. I'm happy with writer.
Thank you. Let's clarify that.
I even say tagger if it didn't just seem so corny to me. I don't know why. Anyway, sorry.
But not only you're a writer,
yeah,
he's an MC. So let's get into another one of your videos. This one, Reel's back.
J57 blessed me with an ill beat on this one. David Ira, first time I worked with David Ira, the director. Dope video, man. Check it out.
Yeah, stay raw shit. Kahlee, J57. I've been a factor, they starting to take notice. Been questioning my motives, middle finger to POTUS. A Cali native, village creative, born to be greatest. I figured God's a G if I'm the image that he made us. Screaming life's a bitch, a sideways grin, laughing irreverent. Cause I'm an asshole, we a match made in heaven. A capoeira up rock in my graffiti denim. Hip hop's my symbiote, we like Ellie Brock and Venom. Imagine one of the best West Most and blowing smoke, but never brandish the pistol pimp. So dope, confidence intimidating to the weak and less secure. Leonidas with a foot to the chest of a messenger. I'm from LA, but still you fucking with a San Diego veteran. With gold bars hollering in the Brinks truck caravan. Holding your wedding bands, best man fight over necks. While I take a 25 on the rock straight to the neck, yes. You okay, rappers been doing well. The real's back, get off of them coattails. While you counterfeiting, faking, hope you got a little scared. The real's back, get off of them coattails. Lying how you selling dope, but now you popping hella pills. The real's back, get off of them coattails. You was acting big and gangster, how you crying in your bed. The real's back, get off of them coattails. Truth be told, I'm on my second win. Crawled out of the wreckage, message to my next of kin. Been a pillar, so they chomping at my ankles for the ages. But me falling off of freestyle murders your written pages. All hell when I arrive, hand slaps of respect. It's all hell when they see you start scratching their neck. I call these rappers Top Gun cause I'm pressing eject. If you dope, why you ain't impressing me yet? The 5th star striped jersey in the rafters. Top seed tourney got you spinning topsy-turvy, hung over the morning after. Extraordinary banter, a splash of root beer in my Fanta. Your kingpin stories like seeing Santa. Glamorizing the struggle, obviously not true. I ain't knocking your corner hustle, but you not a top crew. You the type to do this. You say you hate when people do. I'm doing me, so do like me, except instead of me, do you. You okay, rappers been doing well. The real's back, get off of them coattails. While you counterfeiting, faking, hope you got a little scared. The real's back, get off of them coattails. Lying how you selling dope, but now you popping hella pills. The real's back, get off of them coattails. You was acting big and gangster, how you crying in your face. The real's back, get off of them coattails.
The kids put up on my rookie card now. After this shit, the price ain't coming down. The kids put up on my rookie card.
All y'all out there sleeping
now. After this shit, the price ain't coming down. The price ain't coming down. The price ain't coming down.
Y'all been sleeping too long. Pour a cold bucket of water on that ass.
The price ain't coming down. The price ain't coming down.
Told motherfucking spliff on the cuts. J57 on the beat. It's your man Kahlee. Already told y'all, the real's back. All y'all okay rappers, move the fuck to the side, you know what I'm saying? We don't need y'all no more. Real hip-hop heads, y'all don't gotta settle for okay no more, you know what I'm saying? Over some dope beats. You can have both. I got you. Yeah. The real's back.
Yo, man, another one. Dude, I mean, telling you, your music.
I appreciate it, man.
And lyrically, I have to rewind it because I have to go back and listen to what you're saying because you say a lot. You know, what makes people think.
And I wish that I don't think people like to think sometimes. Though,
I do.
You know. You know what? Cool.
I do.
I love it. I love
the books are here. You know?
It's like Fight Club. You know what I'm saying? There's not a lot of people part of it, but the people with all the money, they're not so interested in thinking so much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
There's some dope lyrical MCs that are up there though. You know what I mean? But you know, I don't know, man. Ain't nobody out here trying to throw money at dude who's like too complicated to understand.
I understand. That's hip hop today. That's hip hop today.
But it's cool, man. I got a job. I'm doing all right.
I hear you.
You know, that's what we was talking about before, the freedom.
Yeah, the freedom.
You know what I mean? There's freedom on both sides. You're so free that you could do whatever you want, but then you do so much that you don't got time to do what you really want to do. And that's what I was saying. Like, I mean, it's all perspective, right? And the way you're looking at it. But man, sometimes it's like, I was doing so much. I had a weekly event in San Diego every Wednesday, and I'm booking all the events, and I'm trying to make it so that it's not the same artist every show. Right. I'm trying to like cultivate a new community that didn't exist at the time, and it takes a lot of time. I'm doing all the flyers every single week, trying to keep them consistent but different, trying to keep it popping so that people are interested. Doing my weekly radio show, not creating music at all, because I didn't have time. I have a family, I have a 9-to-5 job. There's all these things, and it's like the pandemic came, and I had to stop most of that. I just started writing, and before you know it, I'm like writing a lot. And I wouldn't have time to do any of that stuff anyway, so I really thought about it, and when the time came that I could actually start throwing shows again or do this or do that, I was like, I'm good, I'm gonna focus on these things. And all the energy I was putting there, I'm gonna stop spreading myself so thin. And in a sense, I found a new freedom in that. I found a new freedom in not thinking about what somebody wanted to do or not catering to somebody else and not even thinking about what I wanted to do. I hear a beat, Chrome sends me some beats, and I just start writing, and before you know it, boom, I got something in like, and I'm at work doing this.
Oh, okay.
Yo, I'll be at work doing
multitasking.
I mean, maybe I should be doing something else, but I'm at work doing this. Shout out my homeboy James. He's just like an older version of me. He's so into music. He knows all this stuff, and like I just be writing rhymes, you know, and he's right here doing what his, you know. It's dope. But yeah, man, so freedom is in the mind, you know what I mean, to an extent at least.
Yeah, I love your definition of your freedom.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's same position. You be in the same position, and you like, nah, I love being able to dip my, because dude, sometimes I'm writing a rhyme and I'm like, all right, I'm stuck for, you know, on this bar. Let me start working on this flyer. And I start working on this flyer. I just minimize that. I'm working on this flyer, and I'm like, oh, I got a line. Open up the thing, start rhyming again. I get a phone call. I'm texting with a homie. I'm watching something on TV, all at the same time. So it's like my version of that same thing, man.
Yeah, I hear you.
Know? So when I seen Eminem on 8 Mile writing in this weird pattern on a piece of paper, I was like, that's kind of how I think.
You related.
I mean, it's ridiculous that he writes like that. Right. If you see the way I type, it's like it's all organized, but everything else I do is like, what is he doing? How does he do it?
Okay. You have an organization to the clutter.
In case you haven't noticed, I kind of like to do that to the people watching. You know what I mean? It's fun, bro.
Yo, you're a good interview, man. I gotta have you come back later.
Thanks, man. I'm down, of course, anytime, bro.
I gotta
appreciate
have you come back later.
Hey, man, I've been your name is Kahlee, and you're a rapper. I'm like, yeah, man. I'm a rapper, bro. Thanks. Anyway, sorry.
Hey, that's all good. No, talk, please.
Great
That's what this is about. So your videos and your songs, you rep the Dago and Gardner.
Yeah.
Well, what is your connection to San Diego?
Dude, I live in Dago, bro. I've been out in Dago for like 15 years. Okay. I moved out there. So my wife moved out there before she was my wife early on, and I would go there back and forth, back in like 05 maybe. And I was with this group called The Literates that me and another brother started. and we was doing well and starting to spread wings. I put out a solo record, and then my wife, my lady at the time, she moves. We end up getting our own place, and then we're like, yo, she could get a good job in Dago. And I was working. I'm like, let me just try my hand at this music, and she was with it. So we moved to Dago, started saving money for a home, and it was a lot of years of creating music, but not really doing stuff. And it wasn't until the last like 5 years or so that I really allowed myself to be accepted as a Dago artist, because people would consider me. I'd be on lists sometimes of like Dago rappers, and I'm like wearing an LA hat. You know what I'm saying? Because not like I don't want to rep Dago, like especially now, like I do, and I still rep LA. But like I'd be lying if I was a Los Angeles rapper. I'm a Los Angeles born human. You know what I'm saying? And like it is what it is. But over time, I started creating stuff with people in the community, and all my friends are like people in the community. You know, I'm a part of the community. I did an event every single week for like 3 years that has helped and contributed to what exists now. Arguably, some of it wouldn't exist without what I did. Doesn't mean somebody else couldn't have done it or wouldn't have, but they didn't. You know what I mean? And it was great to be a part of that and to be able to have contributed to it. And so nowadays, like, yeah, I rep Dago. You know what I mean? It's dope, man. It's been great. And it's good to get back into things, you know, now that things are calming down. No, they're like, put the mask back on.
Right.
This happened yesterday. You're gonna wear your mask to work again. I'm like, great.
As I was saying earlier at the beginning, you have your hands in many ventures, graphic arts. You talked about the radio show and that sort of stuff. What do you have for the future? What are you looking to do in the future? And also saw that you're building a studio in your backyard.
Oh yeah.
Saw that.
You know.
Yeah, so that looks like a big future.
It's a big job.
Yeah.
When I get home, I'm gonna be painting trim. You know what I mean? Literally painting trim work when I get home. Yup. Moving sprinklers, like getting all muddy, moving sprinklers because they were here and now they're, you know, I got a shed. I'm converting it. You know, right now what I'm focused on is my weekly show, Bars Weekly. Tuesdays on Delicious Vinyl Radio on the Free Dash Radio app. That's 9 p.m. And then I upload the show. It's an hour show. Sometimes the show is over an hour. Almost always over an hour. Upload it to mixcloud.com/barsweekly. Just barsweekly.com, first of all. Go there. Everything's there. Still throwing shows. No longer doing the Hip Hop Weds thing because I feel like it can no longer be Hip Hop Weds because it's not all the same people. It's not the same time or the same place. It's just start something new, and that's SD State of Mind. So I'm throwing shows here and there. You know, I was focused a lot on trying to, a lot of moving parts when you consider other people, and a lot of my goals included things that I consider to be opportunities for other people. And now it's not like I'm not still looking how I can help others, but now it's time to put a little attention to myself. And, you know, I want to enjoy stuff more, especially creating music and letting people hear it and stuff like that. And so I'm doing things that's a little more centered towards me and what I personally like. Because sometimes with Hip Hop Weds, I'm doing the show every week, but like, I don't like all the artists on the show. Or I like the people, but because I don't rock with you if I don't like you. Maybe once. And then I'm like, Heisman, you know what I mean? But if you're dope as a person, and I feel like, because we'd have, the thing that was dope about Hip Hop Weds, if you don't mind, like, every week was a different event. So like the first week, it was this thing called Waves, and Waves was, it doesn't mean it won't be lyrical, some real dope MCs on there, but also be some cats who I wouldn't consider MCs, but they got dope like raps for what they do. More of like the modern type hip hop. If there's some mumble stuff, that's where it's gonna be. No rapping over your vocals, by the way, and that's on the flyers.
Yes,
you know I mean? So you're not coming to my spot rapping over your songs. And if you do, then I'm never gonna book you again. That's just how it works. You know what I mean? It's like you came in my house and pissed on my toilet seat. Like, why don't you lift the toilet seat? You're a man, right? Lift the toilet seat. Use the restroom. Don't get it on the side, and then wash your hands. You know what I'm saying? Put the toilet seat down because I have women in my house. Anyways, point is, analogy. People piss on the toilet seat sometimes, and they can still come. They're just not gonna perform. Anyways, sidetrack. It's like Family Guy. You know how they do little side scenes? So then the second Wednesdays, I think, was Elbow Room, and that was like this whole thing where people come sign up, and that's where, you know, they get to do like a 5-minute set, a couple songs, or they get to do a beat showcase, or sometimes we have performances, and then we book people from that sometimes. Then we had like the more true school night where that boom bap or that raw MC stuff is gonna be. That was Hip Hop House. Yeah. And then we have like a producer night. That was Donuts. You know, so every night was like a different thing, and we had something for everybody. So, you know, it was dope, man. And it really, I loved it. Even when sometimes I didn't like the performers, it was my time of week where I got to kick it with friends, go out. I get to be around hip hop, which some people don't understand how much you need something sometimes, and that's one of the things I need, you know. So, anyways,
no, man,
that's gone.
Yeah, you know, always upset that I never got to get out there.
It's all good, man.
One last question that I'm going to ask to all the guests. This is the inaugural show, as I was saying earlier. Thank you for coming.
Loyalty or respect? No, I'm just kidding.
Dude, I gotta have you back. Come on, you bring life to these things. What does hip hop mean to you?
Oh man, it ain't the same thing that it meant to me before. You know, I don't even know, man. I know for me, how about I answer it like this? And if you don't like it, I don't care. It's my form of communication, but communication in the sense that you can walk into a place and feel something that other people don't even know exists. You don't even know what it is or put your finger on that. You know what I mean? I could convey something to somebody that they ain't even know they needed to feel. You can make somebody upset. You can make somebody happy. You can make somebody sad, but about something happy. I don't know. You know, there's no one thing about it. And I don't feel like there's a lot of things on this earth that we've tapped into quite yet, not without psychedelics, to be able to really do all these things at once, you know? It's something that's there for you to use how you can use it. You figure it out, you do it. It's my culture, you know, amongst others. And it's the way that I live, you know? But at the same time, you feel the same exact way, and it's completely different from me, which is so dope to me. You know, I ain't on that ain't hip-hop no more, though some of it, I mean, let's be honest, this is, you know, yeah, you're rapping. Leave it at that. But it also doesn't matter to me no more. You call it whatever you want. That's your version of it. KRS has an opinion of what freestyle is. I know these freestyle, some people think it's off the top, some people think it's, you know, just how you gonna tell KRS he's wrong about what a freestyle is? So to me, I'm just like, yeah, okay, so there's that freestyle and there's an off the top freestyle. You know what I mean? Like, that can exist. The fact that he's KRS, yeah, that means something with that particular. But ultimately, it's like, I've contributed to this, you've contributed to this, so we have a disagreement on something, we can still, like, it's just, it's a bridge to everywhere.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's amazing, man. That's kind of like what it is. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Man, that's it. We ran out of time.
Oh, just seven more things, bro. Real fast. Okay. I'm sorry.
Man, I appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having me,
for coming, sharing your history with us and your videos. Anything you want to say?
Man, I got some shows coming up. So, man, July 30th is a Saturday. I'm going to be at the Music Box in San Diego. Mitchie Slick, Planet Asia, Sham Black, Fat Sean, Sir Veterano. It's going to be a dope show. That's Saturday, July 30th. August 7th, I got a day show in San Diego. If anybody want to slide through, it's a Sunday at the Casbah from 2 to 6. It's going to be a dope one. Noah James, Yazi, Sham Black. It's going to be a cool event. Day event, slide through. It's going to be cool. And then, man, I'm going to be out in Orange County for the Galleries Festival. Shout out to the Visionary. Shout out to Dan New.
That's right.
He reached out and he was like, man, he put me on the show. You know what I mean? So I'm happy to be on that. Evidence gonna be performing. Psycho Les from the Beat Nuts, Cypress Junkies. It's gonna be a dope show, man.
Yeah, I just saw that flyer. You put it up the other day.
Some other stuff. I know you got hollering at Mezcal. I got
yes, sir.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say it, but I'll be on a lighter fluid, I think, in September.
Oh, that's the announcement that was coming up. Oh.
You know what I mean?
You heard it here first.
Be out in Vegas. So I'll be, shoot, did I just ruin something? Get your
You
stuff
heard it
together.
first.
The last
You
one
heard it
already
first.
passed. You should have already announced it.
You
No,
heard
I'm
it
sorry
first.
if I burnt it, bro. But yeah, man, so I got shows, interviews, a lot of stuff. So it's barsweekly.com. Please check it out. And that's it. Say what's up, man. Say what's up. You got music, send it to barsweekly@gmail.com. Send me something new. New means the last couple weeks. Stop rapping over your vocals and name your files. That's it.
Kahlee, Temple Tactics.
Take care of your kids. Peace to the colleagues.
Thank you, sir.
you, man.
Appreciate you, man. I'd like to invite my first guest, Malik, Sir Malik One,
Thank you.
author, global advocate of the Temple of Hip Hop, father, physician, if I may. I don't want to ruin it all, so let's just get into this interview and you let everyone else know all your titles. Your titles.
Right. Thank you, Mike. This is such a monumentous day to be here with you, first and foremost. I just cannot thank you enough. Thank you to the city of Long Beach for having me, for having us, to your listeners, your viewers, your supporters. We've been talking about this for many years, and to be here in this moment with you, quite a momentous day, very historic, if you will. But yes, I go by the moniker Sir Malik One. Started off as a founding member of the Temple of Hip Hop. To be even in that position, one generally had to have a fairly early embrace of hip hop and its elements, early on, which I did. It's how I was able to, meet people such as KRS-One, 1987, in New York City. We kept in contact, so to speak, and shortly thereafter I began to do some work with the Stop the Violence movement, which was a major success campaign in hip-hop's culture back in the late 80s. So coming up during those times, we were very conscientious about how hip-hop would be in the future, and so here we are.
Exactly, well said. Also, with you being a book author, or many book authors out there who write about the history of hip-hop or just write about hip-hop, they do it from the outside. In other words, they didn't participate in the elements. They weren't a b-boy, they didn't DJ. But you yourself are, obviously. And you might have elaborated on this or spoke on it. What was the hip-hop element that gave you your entry into hip-hop?
So my first embrace in hip-hop, we're again talking circa 1977, 78. This is when hip-hop started, leaking out of the boroughs of New York, and you would find it in various places around the country if you were fortunate. And so b-boying was that first element for me. I still am a b-boy to my heart. It will always be a part of me. You see my gazelles, you see my Kango. Yeah. It's still a part of me to this very day. But after b-boying, I think I mentioned my brother was also a DJ. So I got heavily into DJing about 1980, right when Grandmaster Flash was, really putting out some of his best work at that time. And so DJing also played a big part. And of course, as we now know, we didn't know this then, but now we understand how the elements of hip hop are beyond entertainment and beyond commercialism. So as you brought up, being someone from within the culture, I am a hip hop citizen. I am hip hop and in a full embrace of the philosophy that is taught by our teacher KRS-One, that I am not just doing hip-hop, I am hip-hop. And so in that regard, we look back and we were able to do a much more comprehensive analysis of hip-hop from the inside, right. Not from just a subjective point of view, but we are able to move from subjective to the objective overview as well, so that you more or less get to learn and study not just from what you see, but you can also take into what others see, what other joint access points others are working with and dealing with. And so we have come a long way, but back in the mid-1990s, we talked a lot about hip-hop beyond entertainment and beyond commercialism. I then took a lot of those studies and a lot of those research data points and came up with this work, Peace in Time of War. And it's really a human rights, ethics, and more or less sentient messages to the hip-hop citizen, people that are like myself, people who either participated and practiced the elements on a daily as they grew up, or people who, were just interested from the peripheral side, all the way to people who are the pioneers like Grandmaster Caz, people like, Eric B. and Rakim, people like Dougie Fresh, Slick Rick, the people who more or less pioneered the elements of hip-hop. And here we are today, where we can see a global culture beyond just entertainment and commercialism.
Speaking of New York, in 1999, you had the opportunity to visit United Nations, UNESCO in particular. United Nations Educational Scientific Culture Organization. Recognized hip hop as a world culture. You were actually there that day when they did that.
Yes.
Could you tell us what is actually the Hip Hop Declaration of Peace?
Yes, just to go into this and point of order. In 1999 is when the campaign actually started.
Thank you.
Okay, so in 99, we saw a number of things that had already been put in our rearview mirror, starting with the murders of both Tupac and Big. And we know, for those of us who were mature at that time, that it was a very critical point in hip-hop's evolution. You know, for years prior, we always heard, oh, it's only gonna last about 3 more years. It's gonna be out of here. These fools don't know what they doing.
Right.
Look at them, they all over the place, blase blah, right? So we always heard that it was gonna be over. So by the time the murders and the division, the external forces began to work on that division and exploiting that division, well, it was people like KRS-One, people like Africa Bambaataa, people like Grandmaster Flash, people like Grandmaster Caz, as well as DJ Kool Herc, who came together and for years, even prior, right before those murders, had been planning a much more communal and a much more global representation for hip-hop, because we got to see a lot of the tribalism and a lot of the factions breaking off in the late 80s into the 90s. So after the murders, and then of course I'm talking about murders not just of prominent hip-hop people, but also the garden variety murder of my good friend in the south side of Chicago when we were 16 years old, much like Scott LaRock being killed, much like many other prominent hip-hoppers who had also been either murdered or, fell to dubious, circumstances. And so by 1999, the culture was very much primed for a communion, right? People were sick of the division. People had reacted to a lot of the tribalism, and we began to see ourselves as a community that wasn't really a community at all. And so those pioneers that I mentioned came together and they put a call out to average hip hop people throughout the United States back then. And I was one of the people who responded to that call. If you remember, on the back of KRS-One's I Got Next album was hip hop's first survey. Fortunately, we actually got to do a lot of the analysis, the critical analysis of that work, which began to spawn what we now know as the Gospel of Hip Hop, authored by KRS-One in the Temple of Hip Hop as well. And so by 1999, the community had known of who we were. They knew that hip hop was no longer just going to resort to studio people representing us, industry representing us, because they never have and they most likely never will. Now, will they get on board? That remains to be seen. But in 1999, this was something that was common knowledge. And so with that common knowledge, traveling to many of the seminars, the lectures, the performances, the community meetings and forums, I worked with the teacher with KRS-One. And so by traveling to a lot of those events and participating and helping him write speeches and develop research to present in his lectures and so forth, I began to really take a position of us needing a code of conduct. Because one of the things that the prominent murders showed us was that anybody can say that they are hip hop and then turn around and act with impunity, as if they have no responsibilities to anything or anybody, because I can say what hip hop is no matter what anybody else says.
Right.
And so during that time, that's when we were able to bring together all of those elements of hip hop: breaking, MCing, graffiti art, DJing, beatboxes. But we also, doing the analysis, discovered after that survey that there was also street language, street knowledge, street fashion, street entrepreneurialism. these are also the more lesser known hip hop elements that just are not as heavily exploited as we have found some of the other elements. And so with all of this going on in the United States, lots of other groups and such were coming up, organizations were building. We more or less cobbled together as much support as we could so that hip hop itself could speak and say what it was about, and what it stood for, okay? What hip hop's meaning and purpose is, spoken as people. So 2001 is when that Hip Hop Declaration of Peace was introduced to the world. And from then, it has grown, and we are still teaching those principles in colleges and universities and all kind of community organizations throughout the world today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In 2024, in a couple of years, Brooklyn is going to have the Hip Hop Universal Museum, first of its kind for hip hop. Can you tell us a little bit about it? And I heard that you're actually involved with it. You're on the educational committee of them. So can you tell us a little bit of part you play, and what actually is this museum going to be in Brooklyn?
Wow. So as I mentioned, prior to the murders of Tupac and Big, something that was known but not known enough. Hip-hop's pioneers, hip-hop's caretakers, hip-hop's people were very, very conscientious about the high levels of exploitation that were taking place. And so many of those people had been meeting for over a decade, okay, before the 1990s, about this very issue. Because again, I was more or less embraced, and I embraced hip hop because of its response, right, to a lot of these conditions that we were dealing with in our inner cities as Black people, as, Native people, as brown people, right, or as people who just lived outside of the mainstream. That's what we eventually began to understand. And so these meetings were taking place. One of the most largest, prior to the modern era, happened in 1994 at the Schomburg Center in New York, called the Meeting of the Minds. And so at that meeting, it was a number of things were discussed. Not only the pertinent issues that I was just describing and how we could respond or how we should respond as a community, but what can we do about it? What are we going to do? And so one of the things that started to swirl around, not just in that particular meeting, but mostly in that meeting, was that hip hop needed some type of an institution that was on our side, if you will. And so one of those institutions that was identified was a school, and another was a museum of sorts. And so after that meeting, KRS is the one who more or less took it so seriously that he followed up and kept following up and kept following up and kept documenting and kept archiving.
Shout out to
and
the
kept,
teacher.
Examining. And these are the things that most people don't really know about him. Most people, of course, they still see his music, right? We can still enjoy a hot KRS. What is it? I Am an MC RU12. That's his most latest release here in 2022. For those who think, wow, I haven't heard anything.
Right.
Well, you got to look, and that's really what it's about. Seek and thee shall find. So we know that, they've been out all of these years. And so his real work was behind the scenes, documenting, archiving, examining, researching hip-hop, not just in its broad context, but then also in its more granular context, all while teaching a mastery of self and spiritual principles. So that's what KRS-One is about in a nutshell, right? And so if it were not for his efforts during that time, he is the one that more or less took the lion's share of the work and began to cobble together all of the relationships. I traveled with him, that's why I know this. Through all of these lectures and all of his performances, all of his appearances, constantly lobbying for the preservation of hip-hop culture. So after the establishment of the Temple of Hip-Hop in 1996 is when that vision of a hip-hop museum began to really take hold. And there were other organizations, particularly Zulu Nation, who we definitely want to shout out. Also, rest in peace, King Yoda. This is just my first appearance in the public since I've come back into circulation. I just want to definitely shout out my man who was just very instrumental in my development as a hip-hop cultural specialist, if you will, King Yoda, obviously, of Zulu Nation. And so after that museum began to take hold and more people were in support of it, we then moved to 2001, right? We go to the United Nations. And might I also add, this is not without pushback. None of these things happened without resistance. There was great resistance to us doing this. There was great resistance to KRS stepping out on faith and being able to lead such a coalition and campaign as to preserve hip-hop culture internationally. And so after many years and many changes, some business capitalists, if you will, for lack of a better term, venture capitalists, came together in New York. Rocky Busiano, one of the more prominent, began to work at sealing a public offering to be able to establish this universal hip-hop museum in the birthplace of hip-hop in the Bronx. And so they've gotten a great deal of funding. They've gotten a lot of support from various commercial, international organizations to lend and profits and donations so that this institution can be built. I was asked a few years ago to work with its education committee because of my work with the Temple of Hip Hop and being a hip hop cultural specialist and being an individual who's already worked behind the scenes for decades, being able to advance hip hop's more granular causes, working more so with its people to preserve them directly and without interference and, the challenges that a person can face when you're trying to do it from the stage or from an entertainment capacity. And so working with this Universal Hip Hop Museum, we started to develop a few timelines. They began to collect artifacts. There's a few exhibits.
And that's the part you're playing.
And that's the part I've been working on. And there are many others. I'm definitely not at the helm. I work with a woman by the name of Martha Diaz, who I've known for many years. Another instrumental educator in hip hop's community and culture. Queen Heroin, DJ Wiz from Kid and Play, my man. Definitely want to also shout out a very, very special group called Chosen. And Chosen is an organization that grew out of a Zulu Nation chapter. They were one of their strongest chapters in the city of New York by a good man by the name of Prism, another good brother I know, Asa, my other good brother, Ray Sharu, just very good organizers, very true to the culture as hip-hop citizens, caretakers and custodians like myself who work every day beyond the lights and the cameras to be able to help preserve hip-hop's people. And that's really what our mission is, and that's really what the Hip Hop Museum is meant to do. Now, the path that they're on to achieving that may be somewhat different, but they are an organization who I have chosen to work with because, again, hip hop is all over the world now. And if it isn't our duty and our role and our station, if you will, to work with these organizations, regardless if we agree with everything that they are doing or not, the role is to step in as leaders, as hip hop's citizenry itself, to show and to direct and to demand, right? To demand that to preserve hip hop is more than just, showing some shoes or a turntable. Not that these things don't have their place, but again, hip hop is beyond entertainment and commercialism, right? Hip hop is consciousness. You are hip hop yourself. So it's not just about the clothes that I wear or the instruments that I may use to create my music or my clothing or the language and such. It's more about your consciousness. It's more about your spiritual development, about you becoming the best person that you can be. And that is what we ultimately want to preserve.
True. We're getting towards the end of this interview. In a few words, man, tell us about peace in the time of war.
Wow, Peace in Time of War is started off as a collection of my writings when we were on tour with KRS-One during that first decade. As you remember, I used to keep a journal back then, and I was always kind of jotting down.
And I was filming.
Always filming. Mike was right there. And so after years, many people began to ask us, well, what happened to the Temple of Hip Hop, and where are they? And, I see KRS from time to time, but there was once a time, Malik, man, you all were all over the place. We could reach out to you and get someone would respond back and get a packet and, learn about, what missions and campaigns and such that, they could be a part of. Well, this is a response, if you will. Not necessarily the response, but it is a response. It is a response from, again, founding members of this organization who did not seek to be entertainers. I didn't want a multi-million-dollar rap contract. That's not what I was involved for. And so, again, many people ask about what is the Temple of Hip Hop. Well, the Temple of Hip Hop is a hip hop preservation society, right? They are a ministry, archive, school, and society that seeks to promote, protect, and preserve hip hop as a strategy towards better health, love, awareness, and wealth.
Yes, sir.
That's what the Temple of Hip Hop is. And so my work was more or less taking many of the prominent issues that we were challenged with back in our day and watched how they evolved, right? And how they became bigger issues in this modern time. And so Peace in Time of War is a cross-cultural analysis. It's a scholarly work. So don't pick this up if you're interested to learn about KRS's top charting records and, things about him. Obviously, his efforts are fantastic and they are very meaningful, but this work is meant for the average hip-hop citizen as well as the pioneers, those who have a much deeper interest in hip-hop beyond entertainment, beyond commercialism, and who can wrap their minds around things like ethics and human rights and see where people in hip-hop can play a role in changing the balance of corruption in the world today. So Peace in Time of War, scholarly work. I stand by it fully and completely. There's actually a second and third installment. We have music and a documentary that will accompany that work, but I'm very proud of it, and you can look for it on Amazon. It's available there for you. Peace in Time of War by Sir Malik One.
You heard it, people. Sir Malik One, global advocate, book author. Thank you for coming, man. Appreciate
Absolutely,
you.
Bro. Likewise.
It's been a minute since I've been this focused. The perfect time. It's in sync with people taking notice. My heart clouding up my brain, breaking chains of old pains, and it's no condolence. I lost that spark when I lost friends and gained opponents. Invigorated by that struggle I encountered in my early days, young, dumb, and full of hunger pains. I feel that fire in my heart again. Been taking flight, a wood pipe in a cardigan, dark hairs turning white. Growing old, they used to say that this a young man's sport. I just know no OG showed enough support. I never had a mentor to drop jewels. I just watched and paid attention to their moves like watch outs, watch for cops. Trying to be that Obi-Wan hologram for posterity. So when I'm gone, I can still provide clarity. Instead of staring at the stars, it's heaven in their brain. So just close your eyes and meet me in the ancestral plane.